Now that we have our site running our custom domain, we can also deploy manually from our package.json. That's really good, right? But what if you want to set up something more of a automated way to deploy your code? And this will be the typical workflow in a more of a production environment, or if you're working on a team, right? You're a developer, you'll push your code to some type of repository, and then we can trigger some type of pipeline. In this case, we'll use AWS CodePipeline, code build, and push that changes to S3. This is really simple, right? We're just gonna set up a very simple workflow. Whenever you make changes and you push those changes to Git, or CodePipeline will trigger automatically and deploy your React site to S3. So let's take a look at how we can go about setting that up. First thing we want to do is actually create a repository. So I'm going to go over to GitHub, and let me click on a new repository, and we're going to call this React Deploy, and just put in a simple description. And you can usually set this private or public. In this case, I'll set it to public just for this demo. If this is actually, let's go with private, just to keep this. And I won't add a README yet. I'll just go ahead and create the repository. And that's it, right? But now we do need to push the code that we have locally. Luckily, Git kind of gives you the step-by-step source code you need just to make that initial push. And we're gonna go ahead and grab this. This will create our README, which is pretty good to have. So let's go ahead and copy this. And since this isn't a repository yet, we should be able to go ahead and copy and paste that entirely. And that should push or source code up to Git. So if we go back to our repository, and here I grab this here, if you already have a repository, you just be pushing the changes up. So let's go to our repo, and let's refresh this. And you'll notice our first push to the repository will only push our README file. So we still need to push the additional source code that we have locally. So let's go back to our code. And if we do a git status, we'll see all the code we want to push. Or ignore file will all the code we want to push. So let's go ahead and add all these files. And I'll just commit and let's push to our main branch. So let's go back to our GitHub repository and refresh this. And here we go. So we have our source code in Git, and that's the first step. So let's go ahead and create our pipeline now. What you want to do is open up your AWS console, and we're going to look for a code pipeline.